All right, everybody, it's time to start the meeting. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the previous meeting?
Motion passed.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or corrections? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Okay, the report from the Board of Commissioners. Mayor Craver.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm getting my notes up here from our last City Commission meeting. Our last regular City Commission meeting was held on February the 18th, and items of interest for the Planning Commission. Let's see. On the Recreation report, Vice Mayor Satterfield reported that the board will be establishing an RFQ review committee to review some of the requests for qualifications for the Special People's Park. And so I think we established the committee that would review that, and that would be for some services that would help us to be able to, scope that project, what we need to do to fix that platform and things, and then be able to go out for some bids on that. So that's kind of the first step on that, so that might be of interest. We've got a nice report from the Community Plan Advisory Committee, update on that, and I think we'll talk about that again on our agenda tonight. And let's see. We had a presentation on Tree City, USA. So Susan Hamilton came and gave us a very nice PowerPoint about how Townsend could potentially become a tree city. Now, there's a number of things to that, so we're going to have to study that. We took it under advisement to look at the different parameters, but she highlighted different other cities that had engaged in this effort, and basically it involves planting additional trees. Now, as you all know, we have to get permission to do some of that stuff in the right-of-way, but she envisioned a number of things that could be considered. And so we're going to take that and study that, but in the case that we did want to, look at that further, we might come to the Planning Commission and ask for some additional input or something on that. So that was Tree City, USA. And let's see, we reviewed a number of special events. Oh, and I think as I first started to flag, we talked a little bit about some of the Tennessee state legislation that has been introduced into the House and the Senate to provide a possibility for a new path for de-annexation from the city. And so we're going to have a meeting on that tonight following this meeting, and we'll probably provide some additional information. But what I understand and can share with you on that is that bill, both in the House and the Senate, was amended this week. So there was a amendment that was made, and I think I read it out to you all last time what's in that bill. It's pretty short. But this amendment would effectively add a step that the de-annexation request would actually go to the county. And I'm not sure that that really helps us a lot, because normally, if you look at Title 6, Chapter 51, that's the place where de-annexation is described, and it talks about the fact that the municipality is actually the one making the decision on it. So it's somewhat better the way it was written before. With Tourism Board could just effectively do that by themselves and upon 60 days, be annexed. But then, according to this amendment, there would be an additional step to go to the county. But as we know, the county is one of the primary entities on the tourism board. So that is, I'm not sure that resolves all the challenges here. But it is important to pay attention to because we are a small city and we have a particular shape both to our city limits and to our urban growth boundary, as you guys are all familiar with. And so any suggestions to de-annex from the city large parcels could have important consequences. And so tonight we'll be discussing at our commission meeting, adopting a resolution opposing that legislation. But it did pass in two committees that it was offered in at the Tennessee legislature. In the House, it was in the Cities and Counties subcommittee. It's chaired by Jerome Moon, and it passed there unanimously. And in the Senate, it was in the Committee for Energy and Agriculture, because that's where tourism boards sit. And it passed also there. But there is some further committees that it will have to go to before it will come to a full vote. But we will be considering a resolution on that tonight in our meeting that will follow this. So that's what I talked about as part of the report out from the Board of Commissioners, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any questions for the mayor on the board reports? Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that. All right. Now's the time for public input. Do we have anybody signed up, Caleb?
Matt, Sandy, and Dawn, if you want to do.
Nope. Okay. Looks like there's no public input this evening. So that brings us to new business. Item number 1 is 8025 Old Highway 73. Business license request for a bed and breakfast / tourist home. The note is property is currently zoned R2, and so we'll have discussion on a possible request for rezoning to B1 or B2 status. Lou, we have some representatives here on this agenda item, so if you'd like to come up and just give us your name and give us an outline of what you're doing, what you'd like to do, and then we'll have a discussion to see the possibilities.
That's correct. So my name is JP Mackey. I have the Buckle Lodge about 2.5 years ago, right in front of it. From the Kings, if anybody knows the Kings, we did get a business license to make that into an Airbnb, and then with the idea that we'd like to make the barn into an Airbnb as well. So we've been in the process of converting that into an Airbnb and short-term rental. With it being right on the river, we thought it'd be really pretty and desirable. So that's the main thing.
Okay. So you've already acquired a business license from the city for the Airbnb?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. And what is, you've got down here, it's zoned R2, and the possible request for B1 and B2. What are your plans for the property in the future? What are you looking to use it as?
The main thing is Airbnb. Main thing is short-term rentals. We had some ideas of family reunions, just because if you could rent the lodge and the barn together, well then you could have roughly almost 30 people staying in the area, and so a family could get together and hang out in the main area of the barn. Church retreats, corporate outings, that kind of thing, where they could go and relax, and it's extraordinarily peaceful. So hanging out in there and then being able to have breakfast and lunch and dinner in that if they wanted to. So
okay. As far as the layout is with all the buildings and the bedrooms, how many
Yes.
people can stay overnight? How many does your facility accommodate?
So the lodge or the barn?
All total?
Yeah.
It's all on one parcel,
It is,
correct?
yes. So the lodge sleeps 18. It's five bedrooms, 5 baths, or I should say 4.5 baths. We added a half bath. And then the barn will sleep, it'll sleep 6 adults, and then I'm gonna have 2 bunk beds for kids. So it could sleep up to 8.
And the bathrooms in the barn area? How
And
many?
then there's 2.5 baths.
Okay, so that gets you up to, is it 20?
26.
Oh, yeah, if you have the
If you
children.
have all the kids, yeah. And the lodge, the upstairs has, we call it the bunk room. It's 3 queen beds in a very large bonus room with 3 twin beds above it. And every time I show it to kids, they go nuts, and that's where they want to stay, so.
So it looks like you do have an Airbnb that's set up on the parcel. You do have your business license.
Yes, sir.
To operate. And it looks like you're capable of accommodating 26 people on the property overnight with 7 bats.
Correct.
If you take the halves and
Correct.
convert those over as well. Okay. So what would be the request then for the rezoning if you're operating as a B&B and it looks like you have capacity for close to the numbers that you're speaking of?
So the concern would be is if someone wanted to use, for instance, if we had all 28 people there and they were all staying in the barn, not staying, but hanging out in the barn, 2.5 bathrooms, and a small septic tank create a bit of an issue.
Okay.
So a request for a slightly larger or somewhat larger septic tank would be, which we've done the environmental for as well, and plenty of space for it. But we're concerned that we'd have to pump the septic relatively frequently if everyone is hanging out in the barn and using the 2.5 bathrooms.
Okay. All right. The city does not regulate or inspect the septic systems on the parcel. That's all handled by the Blount County Environmental Department, so.
I follow directions from Sam. He told me to go.
Oh, okay, all right. So it seems to me that the request, if it's related to the septic issue, would be a request that you make to the Blount County Environmental Office, and they be able to come out and evaluate.
Which I think we've done, so. it should-
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think they're, help.
My name is Sam Sharp. I'm a structural engineer and also general contractor. Talking to Mr. Wilson at the Blount County, initially our request was for like 6-8 people of septic tank. And when this idea came up, I approached him and said, well, if you can get a business license, then we can definitely provide you what you need. So that's the reason we approached you guys first, and once we get the business license and everything else, there will not be any issue. We are not room to accommodate bigger size septic tank,
Okay.
So the septic tank is not an issue, but your approval is very important for us.
To get the septic tank, I guess that's.
Approval to get the septic tank.
Yeah.
Okay. Kim and I went over, we visited the property earlier and walked it. Do you have anything to add, Kim, or questions or points?
No, I think what they've said is, oh, sorry. And what they've discussed is what we're going to see. I think the issue here is the amount of guests on the property, the parking, the nuisance to the neighbors possibly. And so all that they seem to be asking for is not something that the city approves in any form or fashion. The only thing that the city would want to know is what nuisance it will be to the neighbors.
It's a great question.
Yeah. But everything else in terms of any sort of permitting, the city will not be, it's not in the purview of the city to approve anything in regards to those particular. So I would say that we have to worry about neighbors, we have to worry about the traffic and about any sort of nuisance. But to get our permission on the septic tank, I'm not sure that's something that we have any permitting authority over.
Let me address one of the issues we are facing. Just if it is a party, we are like music going on and everything else, is a big nuisance. Right on the other side of the river, there's a place they are giving a tube to people to float around and everything else. So when the people gather, there's gonna be some noise, people are happy and everything else. And we're gonna have our kids on the property, So yeah, they're gonna be there, but that will not be nuisance, because the adjacent property already has a fence. On the other side, there are condominiums, that is also a fenced property, you know. And our area is so big, you know, so it will not create the nuisance, you know.
But we've also had, we've been doing the Airbnb for 2.5 years with 18 people staying there. We've actually had 18 people stay there, and then they asked us, we basically say no parties allowed unless you ask us permission and tell us what's going on. So we had one guest stay there last summer. They had 18 people staying there with kids, and then they asked, hey, we've got family that's nearby, can they stop by? We'll probably have a pretty big group here. And so, how many people, where are you going to park? So we arranged all that ahead of time, and no one complained. None of the neighbors complained, and we would stick to that. That is not something that we do not want to offend the neighbors. We want it to be peaceful. The point of coming here is to relax and enjoy the peace. That's what we're looking for. So.
And one more thing about the upcoming project, Townsend become a tree city. What we have done, I haven't had the idea about that is coming up, but that's what we plan to do. I put down all the fallen tree, we will use that one, and how to add the deck to that one. There will not be any pole, it's going to be tree stump used as a post.
Use the natural trees in the building.
On our, when people ask in the events, we always say, Ron, the former Townsend sheriff, lives across the street, so if it gets noisy, he has my phone number, and is welcome to call me and welcome to call the police. So we go Ron and tell him, please keep an eye on it. If it bothers you, it bothers us. So that's it.
Commissioners, questions?
Yes, the people who visit there, there will be an event as such, and most of the people there are going to stay there.
Correct. Yeah.
They're not just coming for a party or a event.
No, I don't want it to be a party place. I want it to be a place where it's like a family reunion. You get together with your family and you can stay and you can all get together and hang out in the barn if you want to. We've got, I put a gym in the lodge. I've got an arcade in there. And I want it to be this outdoor relaxing place, not a loud party place. So I don't want anything to do with venue space. I want it to be more gatherings that are church-related, family-related, that kind of thing.
Mike, I've got a bunch of questions.
Yeah.
First of all, is this barn in the floodplain? How do we know that? We looked at it. Mike?
Can I share some?
Wait, I'm asking the commissioner.
I thought you were asking them a question.
No, I'm
sorry.
asking you a question. Have we looked as to whether this is in the floodplain?
I would say that would be the building and codes enforcer when the barn was worked on and built. Was it a pre-existing barn that was just added
It
to?
was, yes. The barn existed in the first place. Jeff King actually wanted to make it into, and I quote, a party barn.
The party barn? Okay. Doug, do you know the status of the
I think it is in the floodplain.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's like right on the line of the flood. Some of the property's on the floodplain.
There are three plots on the property. The last one, address is 8029, it is in a floodplain.
Okay.
And that, because it's facing the river bank. 8027, fortunately, the floodplain, right where we build the outside deck, is 3 feet away from the bank.
Okay.
This area was my forte when I was working in North Carolina. And we have been a lot of bridges and everything else. So the floodplain is a concern, particularly in this area. But there is enough room to retain the flood water. And we are not planning to do anything in the area which is under 100 years flood zone. So that area is going to be left in a very natural way. Nothing is going to be built on that one, nothing is going to be placed on that particular lot, which can increase the flood damage to the downstream side.
This project's almost complete. I mean, everything he's done is compliant so far.
Yeah, so if there was any new construction, it would have to adhere to the new FEMA flood regulations and things like that. This being a pre-existing building, was put in place, you just did a renovation on the building.
Correct.
So it's on its original foundation as it was built.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, Pat, seem to have any questions?
Mike, if we have a part of our ordinance says the value being changed is more than 50%,
Mhm.
that it has to meet all the new codes and ordinances. Does that apply in this case?
I'd say that'd be a question for
He,
you.
he is compliant to this point. It's, the project is 98% complete.
At least, yeah.
So is it framed for national building code for
It's,
occupation?
yes, everything is compliant to this point.
Okay, the second thing is this drawing we got says there's 2 tracks. And what I understand is there's only one. And so the question is, if there's one septic tank, one septic unit serving all of these bedrooms, I thought the septic requirements were based on the number of bedrooms, not the size the tank is.
That was my question as well. What is your septic tank approved for? How many bedrooms is your septic tank approved
It's
for?
not just the tank, it's the system.
Right,
No.
but they have like 7 bathrooms.
We haven't got the approval date for this month. That's where we are asking you. And the one for the existing one, the house at 8027, it was existing tank. We did not ask for any permit or nothing.
So when you did the barn, did you hook to that tank or did you put a new
No.
tank?
No, right
All new,
now,
all
we
new.
will not get a separate system because it's a headache. And not only that, that I want to share my knowledge with you guys. Being close to the river, anytime this septic system is overloaded or anything else, it's going to be effect on the environment. And that was my major concern when I started the project. Fortunately, based on my knowledge and everything else, we had enough room away from the river to put down a leach street and a septic system.
And still
We
have
can-
parking? Still have room for parking?
But parking is on the other side, the area we want to use on the other side of the barn. And it
The parking
can,
side's on the, when you look at the river and the barn, there's parking on the right, there's parking in the front, septic would go out to the left.
So I'm confused, if you already have your business license to do the Airbnb, what are you asking for?
well, barn, there are 3 different properties. Barn is on 8025. 8027 has a business license, it's all owned by one owner.
Right.
So what we want like to do, that we want to use the facility for B&B, or family gathering, or picnic and just like meeting stuff here. And for us to do that, we got to be having a business license in order to have the septic tank with enough capacity to handle number of people.
So you're asking for a business zone, is that what you're asking for?
As far as your system is concerned, I'm not aware about.
Okay, because,
I'm asking your guidance what we should do to accomplish our desire.
because, right now you're in R2, right?
Yes.
And in the R2, it specifically says, it is the intent of this district to provide for a single and multifamily dwelling to encourage development and continue the use for residential purposes to prohibit business and industrial uses. So it sounds like you're asking for something that is spelled out here that you cannot do. And it also will refer to, on 1A, it refers to any use permitted in R1. So I went back and looked at R1 as well. In R1, it specifically says uses not permitted, commercial, recreation, business in whole or in part. So it sounds like that's what you want to do. And this kind of spells out that you cannot do it. So that's why I'm asking you, what are you asking for?
So I look at that one, the commercial entertainment business or anything else, takes way far away. We don't want to go there. We just want to family really. And basically it's a family picnic or school wants to bring the kids. It's kind of like have them outdoor gathering or outdoor picnic. Or somebody wants to have a meeting or church wants to have some kind of a gathering, we got enough room. We can comfortably sit about 30 people, the chairs and everything else. If they want to do something outside, there is enough open area outside, But there is nothing going to be permanent for the open area. I like to keep the area open. It can blend with the nature, So we are not going to do anything like commercial entertainment or somebody can come and party or anything like we are not planning for that.
So if the people that are there are staying there, you have your license to do that. I keep going back to, what are you asking for?
Well, so then our question would be, so we have a license for 8027, you need a license for 8025, does the 8027 license, business license cover 8025? Because if it does, we just want to make sure we're doing it right, that's all.
That's a question for Gayla. So as a business's license is issued to a business, can that business span multiple parcels, or does the business go with the parcel or the person's
Typically it
name?
goes with the parcel.
Okay. In this instance, it would be possible to request a business license for another parcel, but it's already an existing business doing business in Townsend with a different location. Have you ever come across a request for licensing?
Unless they redid it and listed both addresses for the business on the application.
Yeah.
Just listed the one.
Or took that.
We didn't, the bar was just a bar.
Right, make it more bigger.
Right.
Yeah, take it to law.
All the businesses at the IGA, all on the same parcel, they each have a business license. I think that's the prior art of chapter 11.
By Trillium Code.
So based on that, I would think these guys need to have two separate licenses, even though they're on apparently one parcel.
Yeah.
Mr. Wilson also wants a separate license.
Yes.
Because that septic tank is different area and it's a separate septic tank, so you must have a separate license. And this is one more thing, that 8025, 8029, there will not be any development. But if they are using that open space, so if possible, we like to request a business license for the both property.
Probably not a bad idea, just in case, just so that we're all hanging out outside, we don't want it to think, And then there's also a phone call, that they have one phone call if they're being noisy, so
That's true.
there's a nuisance.
Haskell?
It sounds to me like what I've picked up, you have an ongoing business, and at that business, you've had as many as 18 people there.
Steady, we've had a lot more actually.
Serving,
Yes, sir.
serving that. You said when the 18 people were there, you didn't have any complaints.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had any complaints?
Yes, sir.
At any other time? Okay. Do your neighbors know what your plans are?
They're concerned as far as the, I can't remember her name, the one's at the very back. Her main concern is, I hope you're not building a wedding venue, and I have no interest in building a wedding venue. There's 5 or 6 wedding venues here. I don't want, I would actually like, so I'll give you JP's dream. So when I got married, it was really fun. I got to hang out with my family, my wife's family, and we're all great friends. And we had fun for 2 days. And I thought what would be really fun is if the event center of the Smokies was a wedding, and they said, hey, would you like to stay for a week at this lodge or this barn and have everybody hang out and have a great time, river rat, and do the Cates Cove, and hike in the Smokies, and then get married on Saturday. That sounds to me sounded like a really fun wedding idea. So I don't want to be the wedding, I just want to be where everybody hangs out.
We have very little R2 area within Townsend. We have very little areas that are specially laid out for business, for residential. And this is one of those areas. And what you're going to do with increasing the number of people possibly coming in to stay is you're going to increase traffic coming and going to your unit. into what we would hope would be, as well as high-density residential. And I don't have it right before me, but the high-density residential does allow for rooming houses and boarding houses, I believe, so that's okay. But we're increasing the number here. And parties, when you get people together, under those circumstances, they're all on vacation, they all want to have a good time. We understand there's going to be some partying as part. Is there anybody on site that is going to be governing? You know, who's going to tell them to? Are you going to have to involve our police force to come over to?
I hope not.
Who would do that? Is that responsibility then going to fall to the neighbors, for example, or
No.
is there anybody there?
We have cameras on the exterior of the building that can actually hear, so if it's getting extraordinarily noisy on the inside, we can hear it. Fun story, last weekend, we had a group that was staying at the group of Air Force members, which younger Air Force, military, we were a little concerned, and so we had the cameras where we could hear, and they really seemed to hang out by the fire pit and on the patio and just relax. I think once people get there, it sort of calms everybody down. If it gets noisy, we do have a way to reach out and hear them and say, hey, don't make us call the cops on you.
Music, singing Kumbaya at the top of the lungs.
So we've got a TV out there so you can watch sports. People have had stereos out there and we've never had a complaint so far. So
You're in a high-density residential area, but I rode by the other day, I've seen it. You're not 15 feet from the closest residence.
No.
But there are others in the area that, I'm just a little bit concerned about that part of it because we don't really have any strings that would apply related to how we're going to have people behave on site with nobody there other than, what you're talking about. That's kind of that's a remote sort of a.
The investment we put into it, we would like to avoid the people who are going to do that. This is my own personal investment in this. I don't want the town of Townsend to think any less of me, and so I don't want anybody to damage and generally speaking, the louder it gets, the more likely you're going to have damage. And so that's it.
And I something like this. Townsend is a community that people want to come in and relax and feel the nature. If they want to have fun and excitement, all the Gatlinburg is not confined. So that's what they want to do. Here, they come in, want to get away from the hassle of their life, come back, relax, be with the nature, and just have a family time.
So far, that's what we've seen as far as people who have looked. It's generally people who want to relax. But we actually did have a request for somebody that's graduating from high school, and we said no because we were concerned about high school graduation getting a little out of hand with not enough adults. So we turned people down specifically for staying there. We really are looking for families that come with their kids. The kids go up to the arcade, disappear, you never see them. They go into the big bunk room, you disappear, you never see them, and the families all sit around the lines. That's kind of our niche.
I wouldn't always be able to tell if they didn't tell you that they were a high school graduation, seniors having a house party.
That's exactly right.
I'm still unclear as to what they're asking.
It sounds like what we want to do. No, to me, it seems as though the request was made from Blount County Environmental that they produce a business license.
Correct.
That would enable them to expand their field capacity.
But that's not a planning commission.
No, it's not, no, but it's a good discussion here. And Gayla, do you think that there's a way, is there another business in terms of these multiple locations operates under one license, or do you think, I'm not sure how the business licensing goes. Do you think it's a possibility that they'd be able to acquire a business license on that one parcel as far as how you regulate it?
Yeah, just look at addresses, like, Academics and Joe, they each have their own individual. Licensing of the same parcel, like Apple Valley. Smock has its own, Apple Valley has its own, and Steen has its own.
believe the mayor had something he wanted to address.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sounds like you're getting the guidance that you need, so appreciate the feedback on maintaining a peaceful aesthetic. That's important to us. Just a quick question. Does this barn have a certificate of occupancy?
Not yet.
Will it have a certificate of occupancy?
Yeah, when they finish it and we do a final inspection, it will.
And how many people will it be authorized to hold?
Well, the permit's just a barn at this point, so
Okay.
we don't have a limit on that.
Will there be a number on it?
We won't be the ones that enforce that.
Well, it does fall under the code, because, you know, if you look at the life safety code, you know, I don't know how big the open area is.
It's 26 feet wide and 40 feet long.
This is
It's one hall, you know,
roughly 1,000 feet.
26 feet.
Right, so that, if you have what they call unconcentrated occupancy tables and chairs, you have to figure that on 15 feet. Yeah.
Okay.
So 15 into 1,000
There's a lot of space, yeah.
but that's also that also determines your sewer capacity. You know, if you're going to have what they call concentrated, like chairs only, it was like a church thing. Right. And it drops to 7 square feet net.
Okay.
So that's a lot of people.
Yeah. That's not what we're looking for.
Well, but that's by law.
Yeah.
That's what it's got to be designed for.
I see what you're saying.
So, you know, you gotta have the handicap toilets, you gotta have the exit signs, you gotta have the panic hardware, you gotta have all that jazz.
Okay.
I mean, that's just code. It's,
Yeah, right.
I agree with you. I agree with you. If we are using that particular purpose, the chair and we use it on a regular basis, yes, I have to do that. The great thing about that particular area, lot of open areas. So basically, when they come over here, they don't want to cook into the inside. Outside, there's a lot of things to enjoy. Rest of our whole purpose to enjoy the nature.
yeah. Well, I understand.
You're talking about code in general that we're doing. So the question would be is if it's not an event venue, which we don't want it to be an event venue, then does it need to have the same code if it's residential with, like if you had a gathering at your house with family and you had 40 people there for whatever reason, I don't think you need the code for that, I assume. I don't know.
It's a private property, so if you're open for retail or some kind of services, you then would have to meet ADA compliance and those type of things. But it's a private residence, so the certificate of occupancy can be for, I mean, you could have 1,000 square feet, you could seat 70 or 80 people in that venue. I mean, that's what we have here. So it's a private residence, so it still falls back under the IRC instead of the IBC.
Okay, and so, like Blount County Fire Marshal, he wouldn't even do an occupancy count on residents?
No, not for a private
Yeah,
venue.
okay.
Okay, but it's not an event center. It's, as Commissioner Rett pointed out, it's probably more like a boarding or rooming house, and that's why it fits into the R2.
Yes, sir.
And how many guest rooms does it have?
Right now is 3 guests, 2.5.
3 guest rooms, 2.5 bath. Okay.
We have a total of 7 bathrooms.
But on this one location, this one back parcel where the,
In this one building.
yeah,
Yeah.
So I'm reading over here, definition of a boarding or rooming house, building containing a single dwelling unit, not more than 5 guest rooms, so you got 3, where lodging is provided with or without meals.
And I would like to go back, ask him a question about the barn, what he said about the barn. It's a barn now. The inspector, you said something about it's a barn now?
Microphone.
Yeah, it's a-
Microphone, Julie.
It's a barn. You made a comment about when they were talking about occupancies and all that. You said it's a barn.
Right, we're renovating a barn. That's what
Right,
they're doing.
but the plans are to do this. You're not like going towards a barn as your goal.
Was a barn, now it's a boarding or rooming house.
Well, it was a barn, and it's 98% complete.
It's 98%
And it doesn't have
not
a
a barn.
Right,
It looks
okay.
like a barn.
But the way you said that, I'm like, wait a minute, did you say barn? I mean, I knew it started as a barn, but it's not staying as a barn. Got it. Okay.
You have barns defined in our zoning ordinance? We should have one, if this is what we're dealing with this, I know, but just as an aside, we should define barn at some point in time. You have buildings in town that or structures in town that appear to be barns.
Mike, can I point out something? It's hard to read, I had to use my phone to magnify it, but up here by the barn, there's a square that has a parcel number, okay? Do you see that? Now, if you go down to the very front of the property, there's a square that has a different parcel number. So if this is two parcels sharing one septic field, that'll be your elevation.
They're separate.
But we need a separate environment.
And they don't use the same septic
No,
system.
sir.
Okay, and I misunderstood.
We were scared of that too.
Yeah.
Anything else, Pat?
No, I'm done.
Thank you. Kim?
Yeah, I just wanted to reinforce what Bill said. They could just consolidate the property. So they have two options, either to get another business license or consolidate the property. For me, my issue is again back to the nuisance thing. And what I'm worried about is the parking. Because that's what I'm asking, because there's a shared driveway to some point before it branches off. So I'm just wanting to know if they have that many people there, where they will be expecting the people to park without obstructing the neighbors. That's basically, is the nuisance for me, that's the issue.
That's also on my website, so for people to check in, we actually specify where people can park for the lodge. So when we've had 18 people there, we've got two driveways that fit 4 cars. You can park next, we have a little detached garage. You can park 2 cars there, you can park along the side, because there is a gravel driveway that is for the back. And we very, you cannot park there because they have to be able to get in and out.
Exactly.
So we designed a very large parking area next to the barn that I think.
Yes, I get back to me.
Yes, sir. So about 4 cars should be able to fit in that, and then there's plenty of space that's far away from the septic and the leach field.
Would it be any trouble to you to put, like, let's put a sign that says no parking?
No, I actually like to. So we want to have, I'd like to have, it's lit up, so when you drive in, there'll be a sign that says, barndominium this way, turn left. And then I'm going to have lights that run so you can see. It'll look nice as you're driving up to it, so. Good question.
None of the parking, none of the driveways, impervious surface, it's all gravel.
It's all gravel.
That's good.
All right. Any other questions or comments or further discussion? Do you feel as though that you've got the answers? I've seen the answers.
If you want us to apply for the zoning change, we will do that.
Whatever you all think we should do.
We'll just either work with a Kim or Caleb. You have 2 different options. Join the property or submit for another business license. So, all right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the time.
Don't have too much fun with those outdoor activities.
It's been my good old days. It's just like being my good old memories back. And I feel so good coming over here today. I was in town of Caledonia, playing his role, engineer and everything else. And this is something every evening, but Monday evening we have to attend. It fills my heart up.
It's a special place. We're working hard to keep it that way. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, that was the only item that we had under the new business.
And I have another question, since I'm new. you know, last week, I knew we had a meeting after this, and I know we have a meeting after this as well, so I didn't really push the issue last week. But I do have a question. When we sat down and the excavation ordinance went out and none of us had a chance to look at it, is that normal? Should we have a time limit? Should we get that, you know, before? Because the reason I'm asking this, because I went and just compared the original, the amended, and the amended is what's going into 8-313 into our ordinance. But it was already covered under 8-305. So I think instead of making 8-313, that information should have been incorporated into 8-305 because we're already addressing it. We also address it in the Townsend Municipal Code 16-201. We also address it in the Land Use Transportation Plan that states all topsoil has to be set aside. It goes on. In the beginning, it says it's about grading and driveway access. Number 1 says it's about excavation, grading, and clearing. What is it about? Further on down, it says a new section in Chapter 3, which I just talked about. I don't think it should have been a new section. I think it should have been incorporated because now we have information all over the place. And also referred to in Exhibit A, and I didn't see an Exhibit A. It also says no person shall do any excavation, grading, or site clearing of anything over 1 cubic foot. That's what the original said, that's what the amended said, but then there was a conversation during this time. So it went from 1 cubic foot to a dump truck. And then if you look at the permit says any amount of soil. So, and the places that we have people go to look at, it's going to say if you move any dirt, if you move 1 cubic foot, if you move, and there's no revision dates on any of this, so we don't know which is the most current. The cuts, the slope of the cut surface shall be no steeper than is safe for the intended use. What does that mean? Because we have places around here where there are slopes. So no steeper than what is safe. 14-9 on the original draft, it had that shall not exceed 15% maximum grade. That was taken out. So now it's all up to, I don't know what those slopes are, and who knows what they are. Fields, same thing with the slopes. Excavation, grading, and site clearing and other land disturbances shall be limited to the areas shown on the approved plans. But it also goes on to say, well, prior to this, that the building person can waive the plans. At what point would he waive plans? If we say you have to have them, but then you can waive them, you see the convoluted mess that we are making here? Let's see, this is what it did say. The reason shall be submitted in writing to the building official and shall require the certification of the project, architect, and/or engineer. Of course, that's if it's not waived. In what cases can they waive it? And then on the amended version, it says, the reason shall be submitted in writing to the building official and shall require the certification of the project, architect, and/or engineer. Sections shall be 5 feet, retaining walls shall be designed and constructed parallel to pre-disturbed slopes and/or property contour rather than across. It doesn't even belong there. It's like someone copied and pasted something in the wrong place. And these are the things that were deleted. In the event no development is planned for the parcel, the applicant shall be permitted to clear no more than 25% within a 5-year period. Why was that deleted? I think that's a good idea. You can't clear more than 25% if you're going to go out past 5 years. 14-3, in all instances, areas of disturbance shall be stabilized within 7 calendar days. Deleted. A protection plan shall be required for all areas adjoining an area of disturbance. Deleted. So you're not protecting your neighbors. when you do this disturbance. That has been deleted. Grading and benching shall be restricted so that no cut slope be any steeper than 2 horizontal to 1 vertical. Deleted. Certification by an approved professional shall be required on all sloped constructions for slopes in excess of 2 horizontal to 1 vertical. Why was this all deleted? And we didn't even have the opportunity to look through it. Then it also says a 25 buffer from all permanent and intermittent streams. So when is it 25 and when is it 50? Because it's 25 or 50 throughout the book. So I know we talked about the workshop, and we know about excavation needs to be talked about again, but to just add a section, to me, that's very lazy. Also, it says, okay, item 18 on the new one says conflicts. All ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herein are hereby repealed. So this tells me whatever we did, everything else is repealed, wherever it might be. However, nothing contained herein shall be construed to repeal the provisions of the Townsend Municipal Code. So if you read the Townsend Municipal Code, permits are $20. What did we say on the new version that went through? That there was a sliding scale up to $500. So we have a gigantic mess with this. It should have never come through us like it did. And that's what I have to say. With respect to the meeting as follows.
Okay. Any questions or comments?
Well, thank you very much, Joanne, for taking a close look at that. I'm not surprised that we have some mention of excavation and grading and things like that in the land use and transportation plan, in the municipal code, and the zoning. Each of those documents has its own particular purpose, and it provides guidance, usually something that the land use and transportation plan is fairly broad.
And it also says that the topsoil stays on the property. Nowhere did that say that.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah, so land use and transportation plan provides broad guidance for developing the municipal code and the zoning ordinance. So it's possible that the land use and transportation plan could be overly detailed. We might take that up as we're looking at the update to the community plan. But it has to provide broad guidance to develop the municipal code and then the zoning ordinance. And so I'm not surprised to see something in there on, in each of these documents, but it should be coherent, which I think is your point.
Yes,
And
that's
so
what
it
I'm
should
saying.
not be in conflict with one another. And usually, and I think what we've asked building inspector to do, because this is coming back to our Board of Commissioners on Tuesday, is to look at conforming changes that would need to be made. So if, as we're putting this in place, if there's some sort of a conforming change, for example, on the fee structure, then there would need to be a recommendation to update the municipal code to be in conformance with that. And so when it came back to the Planning Commission, the purpose, it was at the Board of Commissioners before. I think it might have been on second reading or something, but the Board of Commissioners asked the Planning Commission to take a look at it because we got feedback from our residents that it was overly burdensome and it was there was just too much in it and not exactly, fit for purpose for Townsend. And so the Planning Commission was asked to take a very specific look at it with respect to the, engagement of the building inspector. And so I think what building inspector did is he looked at sections that ought to be deleted that might be a little heavy or too much. But ultimately, when this goes forward, we will need to answer all the questions that you just raised. So how does this fit with the land use transportation plan? How does it fit with what's in the municipal code? If there's a change that's needed in the municipal code, what needs to change so that they're all coherent? And so I'm not surprised that each one of those has a different level of granularity, but they all need to be coherent, and I think that's what we're going to be looking for on Tuesday night. Now, having said that, commissioners are not in the same, position with levels of experience and things as the planning commission. So that's, how we benefit from that. So I hope that all this stuff will make sense, because if it makes sense to Board of Commissioners and it looks like it's coherent and not in conflict, then I think, we ought to be able to approve this. But if it does look on its face, if there's two things that are in conflict, then, we will have to send it back and it will have to be reconciled, or if there's some recommendation. So what I'm asking building inspector to do is to help us to make sure that when this comes on Tuesday night, that if there's any conforming changes that are needed, those are flagged up, and we'll make sure that commissioners are paying attention to this so that we can try to do our value add to this process and make sure it all makes sense.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, then it will be coming back, and it might be coming back for a more comprehensive look.
The way I see it, there's not some magical point in time where in the future we're going to fix everything. We're working on something right now that is going to give us guidance to fix that. That's the comprehensive plan. And then as the ongoing work of the Planning Commission continues over time, we will correct whatever we need to correct as we work through the rest of the time and our future.
But there is no reason to add a completely new section covering the same thing. And it should not be handed to us when we sit down, because that's how it got through, because no one had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, well,
That's not quite true.
No, it is true. It was my first night. The first one
No one, we have been looking at that ordinance for what, 4 months prior?
Yeah.
I mean, it may have been your first night,
But did you not know that it was already covered in the city code and in section -8-308? It was already covered?
not until you just told me. And now that you pointed it out, and, I suggest that we correct it. I guess that's
I'm
what
just
you're
saying that it
suggesting.
should not come to us when we sit down. We should have a couple of days
It didn't.
leeway. The amended did it. The amended did it.
Mike, that's suggesting, she's identified a lot of things that need to be considered. And we put a real burden on the codes guy for Tuesday night. Seems like that's not a very fair thing to do. It seems like he ought to have a chance to rectify the proposed ordinance, take into account the things Joanne said, bring it back to the Planning Commission and let us go through it one more time, then send it to the City Commission. Because we guys are the technical guys, City Commission isn't.
And it needs to come to us for 10 times.
Okay, hold on. It's already in process, so we have to respect the process that as it is. And so if it comes to City Commission next week, and those things are still not addressed, and that there's not, it doesn't look fit for purpose, then the City Commission will send it back to the Planning Commission. There's no action other than, these observations, which I think are very good observations. I'd be pleased to get a copy so that I can make sure, we covered.
But last time he did mention it was already on Will's desk.
Well, okay, and if it comes back to the Planning Commission, of course, we'll make sure that there's adequate time for looking at any updates and revisions. But this is a good process, and so we just need to respect the process. And, if it's not, you've got Commissioner Jenkins and I on the Planning Commission for this very reason, that when we get in there Tuesday night, we can make these observations. And if it's not yet reconciled or ready for prime time, then we'll send it back.
So I'm a little confused. On Tuesday night, we're going to look at the same one we looked at the first time we came through. Or are we going to look at a different one that he's going to work on over the weekend?
Well, we should already have our materials for Tuesday night, so we will look at the materials that we have on Tuesday night. Because we have to have it as a Board of Commissioners in advance. And so we've got whatever we've got at this point.
So we're not going to be looking at his.
No, he's not got to do anything else.
Okay, I misunderstood what you said earlier.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I sent the agenda materials out yesterday to the board. We don't have the driveway ordinance on there because it's not ready with the revisions.
Oh, well, all right.
And I would suggest that you give a list of those changes that you've identified that need to be made and give them to the council members, so as they review the document, they can have some kind of litmus to judge what they're looking at and the recommendations that you found, so.
I already got have
They
copies to hand out.
they could actually make a list of recommendations along with the ordinance that they do have it come back to the planning commission for us to review again.
Okay. I do have copies, and I did have some notes that I've asked some questions, and I've gotten them answered, but those questions are on here. And just one last thing. Whenever East Tennessee Development updates our ordinance, codes, zones, all that, how do we know what they changed? One, that's one question. Number two, you have sent out the zoning, and you wanted our comments, right? So I was looking at that, and number one, know your audience. How many up here do you think knows how to go in and, insert those? I do because I used to be an executive assistant, so. But my problem with what you're asking us to do is this is just chapter 6, and this is the pink right here. That's just my comments to me, that's all. And so you are asking us to review the entire book, put our comments to the side. Okay, so you see all of these. This is just mine, this is just one chapter. So you want approximately 20 people to put comments to the side. All of your staff has names. We are all guest users.
Yes.
So when I go back to read my notes that I wrote, sometimes I think, what did I mean by that? And I have to stop and think. So how are you interpreting our notes? You're asking us to put notes. You're asking 20 people to put notes out here. How are you going to interpret that, and how will we know what changes are made?
We are not going to be interpreting it. We are going to be processing it.
So why are we doing it?
That's what I said. Everybody's gonna.
Oh, sorry.
Get it. Everybody in the civic bodies will provide comments, okay? And there's no need for us to identify each comment by name. That's irrelevant. We need the comment, full stop. Now, when we get all those comments, we're going to process them for a facilitation script for a workshop. At that workshop, the public will be made known of what those comments are, and they will then also provide their comments, whereby they'll be recorded. So I just spoke to Gabriel this afternoon how we should make sure that that is captured. Okay. Now, when that all is done, after that workshop, then we will then know what the community wants in terms of the zoning ordinance. We will work to reflect that in the document, how we brought back to the city for review, comment, and formalization of some sort.
So will all changes like this past time be in red? So we know what was changed without going line by line?
We are going to take all those comments, put them in a facilitation script, as I said. The way in which I'm envisioning that will be done is that every single comment, to some extent, will be put on a PowerPoint presentation. And at the workshop, comments will be entertained, reviewed, digested of what all that input means for the city and what sort of consensus it wants to come to. So that's the way we plan to process it.
I think a cleaner way to do it is if we each had our own, so we could each have our, so if I already have this many comments and we have 19 people behind me, you don't even have room for that. So I think, as to make it cleaner, we should all have our copies that we can, and then we can turn them into you.
No, absolutely not. We need it all in one consolidated, one document in a soft version.
I don't see how that's going to work.
You don't worry how it's going to work. We will make it work. That's the way we will need to have it.
The reason I worry, let me tell you the reason I worry. No, the reason I worry is because what he sent out for us to review, everything in here that had changed was in red. I even asked him. No, I asked you, I said,
Incorrect.
everything in here, I said, there is no more red back here. You said no more red back here, and there are changes. So I want to know, how do we keep up? And then we don't need to get this far deep in these weeds right now, because we do have a meeting, and I do respect their time. I'm just saying, there's a better way to do this, that's all, that's all.
I would appreciate that we know how to manage it. We have a process, and your comment about red and not red is a complete misunderstanding.
I asked you.
I'm just stating emphatically that what color coding you seem to want to stress on is nothing that needs to be stressed on, because there's no color coding to any changes in the document. I explained to you earlier that the red was for the parts that were to identify what the ordinances are, because none of the ordinances are named. Those changes have not been named. It is just a description of what those ordinances have been throughout history. So when the time comes to adopt a new ordinance, something that is a descriptor of each of the ordinances will be suggested to be added to the ordinance. But they are not formal changes. That is a working document of mine.
Let me see if I can close this out, Mr. Chairman. I know we need to wrap this meeting up. The purpose of this, Kim, you tell me if I'm getting this right, is not to have a red line version of the zoning ordinance at the end that will be assessed. The purpose of this is to be able to have the guiding principles that will go in the community plan or the land use and transportation plan. These are the big picture things that will be in there. There's a section of the land use and transportation plan, I think it's section 6, that talks about how we would implement these things. And so once we've got, section 6, so once we've got sort of the feedback on the zoning ordinance from the planning commission standpoint, if there was ever something that you thought needed to be updated or something like that, you put the comment in there, and then we would workshop it, and then it might ultimately land in an implementation method. And so this might say, okay, you need to look at, these sections of your zoning ordinance and update it. But the intention is not to, I think, generate a red line version of this that would be accepted.
I just want to know what is being changed. How are we know? We are responsible.
It's not going to be changed.
Well, it is being changed. It has changed.
Okay, well, I think it's all for, as a mechanism to provide feedback for something that will be in the community plan. And then there might be a section in the community plan that says, for example, you need to take into account your lighting ordinance and, do these things. And then we will go back and use our normal processes to be able to update that section of the zoning.
But also with the ordinances, and I was tracing back to the ordinances, and there'll be an ordinance that's referring to a pain clinic. It's in a pain clinic paragraph. You go look at the ordinance, and it's carport and garages.
I'm sure that there are probably, as any document is revised over the years, there's probably places where we need to make sure we don't have any typos in the references.
And then for us to be responsible for the comment, and that is his copy, and he will not share. But yeah, we are responsible for the content. That's where I have a problem, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, I think it's big picture items that we're trying to capture in the document.
There is nothing I'm refusing to share. The only thing is that the soft copy of the ordinance, we don't want it out there. And then there's an issue about. So that's why I can share you a hard copy, a PDF or a hard copy. But the actual soft copy, which is like the original word, I can't have that running all the time.
Okay.
If the ordinance is going to change in any way, it's not going to change according to any comment, so I don't want anybody to be confused about that. It's going to change by action of the commissioners.
Yes, by the process that it.
Any part of it.
Any part
If it's a
of it.
duplicate part, the city commission should say, this is a duplicate, it needs to be changed. Not planning commission, not any of us, it's got to go through the process. There's legality involved in what gets put in that ordinance and what doesn't, because that's what we base everything, the zoning ordinance is used for on.
And I believe that the copy that is out there has draft watermark.
All right. Moving on, I believe Kim touched on his administrative items somewhat with the marking up of our planning code book. I think that was covered sufficiently. Do you have anything else that you'd like to, administrative items? Or?
Yeah, one thing quickly. Somebody did a second attempt at a windshield survey. We have digitized it, shared it with Gala. I will make sure that to confirm that our GIS person will send a soft copy to her so she can keep it in file.
Could you email that out to us when you receive it?
Okay.
Thank you.
And then lastly, the change to Mr. Aiken's property has been reflected on the map, and it was supplied to you this afternoon. So she also has that for it to be put up on the wall and put on the website. She has an electronic copy and I left them in the office, so my apologies. I'll make sure to have
Okay.
Exactly, more wall maps.
Okay. Any questions for Kim on the local administrative items?
I would like to have a wall copy as well of the zoning ordinance, and I'd like to have it in this room for meeting purposes, whereby somebody who would come in and would bring something before us, or even before the commissioners, if I may suggest to them, some change, they can show exactly where it is that they are on the map, so not only the board who may already know, but the members of the community who are in attendance will also know exactly where the spot is that we're talking about within the city of Townsend.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, the number that has been sent to me, wall size, are 3. One is intended for her to file away, one is intended for public display, and the third one should be given to Michael. So when you are at your meetings and you need one at the table,
Let's bring it in, put it on a tripod, and that's all we gotta do.
you can even laminate the one for public display.
We can even project a digital copy as well.
It reminds us all of what we're here about.
Okay. Any questions, any more questions for Kim on, you did status reports as well. You included that in your?
Yeah, I mean, everything that I need to report out.
Okay. Very good, very good. Is there any other business that the commission would like to discuss, other business? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Chairman, I'd like to make one comment, Richard. I'd like to commend Galen. Sometimes you're not appreciated as much as you should be. I have been around a lot. Probably with 350 to 400 planning commissions. You do way a lot more than your predecessor, and sometimes we don't appreciate you enough. And I know you've been thrown under the bus a few times and back up because I've seen it. And I want to say that I, separate from the commission itself, do appreciate you and all the efforts. And I would like to see someone from, not from the commission itself, but appointed to take off the dispensation of all the plans that come in here. We want her to just put it, I know by law they're supposed to come into City Hall. But we asked her to dispense those plans or whatever she has to receive to the appropriate people. She's got a lot of things to do, and if they don't go out on the very moment, they'll get on her case. She has a lot of things to do. And I think we need to look around and see if we can find someone that will take the plans and take anything that's come before the commission and dispense them accordingly. They can come in and get it to everybody that's supposed to be. And that will relieve her of that duty. She's doing more than she was ever asked to do. And I think we need appreciation for that. And after looking last Saturday, I wanted to say I don't see our police department in here, but I'd like to say I appreciate them. They do a good job for us, and they look after us the best they possibly can. If anybody walks on water, you know, only one man walked on water and they hung him. we don't have a prayer. They do the best they can do, and I apologize for taking a few moments, but I do appreciate this commission, and the city council, and the zoning board. I appreciate those boards very much, and women too. And I appreciate even our, what I call generational families. They have been here for years, and they know we got along pretty good. I've worked under 3 different mayors. Good time. But things are beginning to get a little cloudy, and we need to be looking at that. We're a good little community. We're a good little hamlet. Don't let things get out of hand and distort and our way of thinking and way of doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate that. Appreciate you too, Gail, very much. All right, is there any other business for the commission? I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
You got it.
And I have a first, I have a second from Eric. All in favor? Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you for everyone attending.